Been talking about housing association residents in Great Bookham. They're demanding answers to unexplained service charge hikes that they say has left them hundreds of pounds out of pocket. Michael Helas lives in Turville Court and says that Clarion, the housing association, has charged them for heating when it wasn't even working. He's been catching up with our man, Adrian Harms.
In 2022, I phoned Clarion because of the huge jump in energy costs to inquire so I could budget what they thought our next year's costs might be. At that time, Clarion told me that the heating costs would remain largely unchanged because they had a 3-year fixed price contract that didn't end until April 2024, which was good news. However, when we got the 2022-23 financial year service charges, the costs for gas and electricity had gone up significantly, 30 or 40%. And so I went back to them to pose the question, why have these charges gone up so much when you told us you had a fixed price contract and they wouldn't be going up? And I couldn't get an answer.
What's your assessment of how much you feel has been overcharged here in total? Well, first of all, yourself, but also in general here with the people who live here, which presumably would be a cost that's been absorbed by the council.
My calculations would suggest that Clarion, they owe probably £200 to £300 each tenant for the 22-23 overcharge, and probably the same again for the fact that since the beginning of 2023, when they first turned off the heating system completely for theoretically repairs, they provided electric radiators so that we had some form of heating while the primary system was turned off. However, they continued to charge for the primary system, which wasn't working, and at the same time we were running up electricity bills by using the temporary electric radiators they'd supplied.
So what do you think in terms of yourself? I know the calculation is slightly difficult, but what do you think you should be owed by Clarion?
I suspect that the minimum would be £400.
But we're going to hear from Clarion and what they've had to say. Our political reporter, Jack Feen, has been speaking to Suzanne Mooner, who's the secretary and co-founder of the Social Housing Action Campaign group, SHAC.
I know that they are classed as being one of the biggest landlords in Britain, so you obviously account for size. But even within the group of landlords that are very, very large, we still get a disproportionate number of complaints about them. And the complaints range from a whole load of things. Disrepairs in particular are very, very prevalent within Clarion. And then the other thing is around service charges and failure to deal with antisocial behaviour. And I think, the experiences of our tenants and residents who are members of SHAC and have complained to us about the way that Clarion operates. When you look at Clarion's tenant, satisfaction measures, they show very, very low levels of satisfaction measures, again, even compared to other landlords who are on or about the same size.
You mentioned repairs, you mentioned service charges. Those are the issues that are being raised by some of the people living at Turville Court. So is that reflective of what you've heard elsewhere?
It is very common. What used to be service states with a neighbourhood office where people could go into the neighbourhood office, the neighbourhood officers would know their estate, would know what the issues were, would know if there was a building that was having problems with damp and mould, for example, or broken leaks or something of that nature, and they would, of their own initiative, actually take action to make sure it got addressed. All of that has been done away with. Nearly every neighbourhood office has been shut down. And what people are left with is what they call the sort of digital interfaces. So you go on a website, you log a complaint, you get an email or a text, automated email or automated text message, logging your complaint. Clarion has got an operating surplus. So this is money that they are left with after all of the expenditure that they need to make in relation to a property, or that they have made in relation to any property, paying their staff wages, all of those kind of costs, paying for insurance. This is what's left over after all of that has been paid for. This money that they have amassed and is sitting surplus in their coffers could be used to make the repairs
But we asked Clarion Housing to comment, and this is what they've said.
We apologise for the disruption residents experienced while this communal heating system was upgraded to meet our expected standards. During this period, our contractors continued to carry out repairs while plans were developed for a full replacement, requiring complex design and approvals. The replacement was completed in September 2024, with compensation paid to recognise the inconvenience caused. During the energy crisis, our fixed-price contract protected residents from the peak of 22-23 prices, but when this was renegotiated in 2024, costs unfortunately increased in line with the wider market. Residents pay fixed service charges set annually under their tenancy agreements, which is not adjusted against actual energy costs, so there have been no overpayments.
You can read more on the story right now.